Hi, welcome to VideoMathLessons.com. This is a Algebra 2 and Trigonometry quick lesson. This is lesson number 23, Trigonometry Equations Part 2. Alright, so let's take a look. We've covered basic equations. Here's a more complicated equation. Notice we're mixed with our functions, cosines and sines. Now you can't work with the functions next to each other like this. So we have to split these up somehow. Either we're going to try to make them all into one function, like everybody cosine or everybody sine, or if we look here, we can actually do a little trick here by factoring. So this is cosine x minus 2 cosine x times sine. This is a common factor, and if you don't see the common factor, if I write like this, x minus 2xy, and what you see is that the x can come out, and I'd have 1 minus 2y. Well, if we look over here, the cosine comes out, and what I'm left with is 1 minus 2 sine y, x, excuse me. Once I have them separated, I can actually do the problem. So we split them apart. Cosine x equals 0. And we're going to move things around here. So if I bring the 2 sine x over, I get 1 equals 2 sine x. Divide by 2, sine x equals a half. Okay, so it looks like we're pretty much done. We're not, though, because I have to find the angles. So let's start with this. Cosine equals 0. If I look at the cosine curve, it's at these two positions, here and here. Cosine equals 0. This is at 90 and 270. If you look at the unit circle, cosine 0 at these two spots. So these really represent the same thing. So where is it 0? Well, it says 90 up to 270. So actually, the answers are 90 and 270, except the only problem is I'm not allowed to use either one of those. So I can't use either one of these. So I'm just going to move on. Now let's look at this one. Sine x equals a half. I'm going to do second sine a half, which is inverse sine. This is one of our special triangles. You should know second sine. The inverse sine of a half equals 30. I'll show it on the calculator. So second sine 30. Hit enter. Sorry about that. Second sine a half. And we get 30 degrees, and that's what we said it was. Now 30 is not in my interval, but if we recall, this is a positive half, and what that tells me is ASTC, all students take class. It's going to be positive in these two quadrants. This quadrant is 90 to 180, so this is the quadrant I'm looking at. And what we do is we take our reference, remember this is the reference angle, drop it off the x, always off the x-axis, and I'm looking for this angle, which is going to be 150. So the only answer for this problem is 150. We could check this. This I'm a little nervous about. So let me check this problem. I'm going to type in cosine 150. I'm going to plug in x is 150. So let's try that. Cosine 150 minus 2 cosine 150 close parentheses times sine 150. And hopefully this is going to equal 0. And it does. 150 is my answer. It's in the interval from 90 to 180, which is quadrant 2. And that's it. Let's try another one. So I have 1 plus 2 sine theta equals cosecant, and I'm allowed to do pretty much all the angles from 0 to 360, just not 360, which is really repeating the 0. Now, I'm not crazy about this cosecant. So let me take a look. 1 plus 2 sine, and I'm going to change cosecant, and it's called a reciprocal trig function. You should know cosecant is 1 over sine. So I'm going to change it to 1 over sine. Now that's actually good for us. You might not think it looks good, but if I put this over 1 also, I have a fraction equals a fraction. And what I could do is I can cross multiply. So I'm going to put sine theta, 1 plus 2 sine theta equals 1. Now you might be tempted to draw the line right here. The only issue is it's not set to 0. So I'm going to distribute. So sine theta plus 2 sine squared equals 1. Set it to 0. I'm going to move things around. I get 2 sine squared plus sine minus 1 equals 0. And we're going to factor this. Now, you could just guess and check on this. I will show the method. This is the method. So you multiply the front and the back, you get negative 2. I want to break down negative 2 to make a 1 in the middle. So it has to be a 2, has to be a 1. The sign in the middle, the plus, goes with the bigger number. Negative 1 and a positive 2 makes positive 1. If I multiply 2 and negative 1, it makes negative 2. I'm going to divide by the coefficient with the sign. So I'm dividing by 2 sine. Reduce it if you can. Read it upside down. So this says sine theta plus 1. And this is over here is 2 sine theta minus 1. Draw the line down the middle. Sine theta equals negative 1. And move things around. You're going to get sine theta equals a half. Well, let's take care of the negative 1 first. If I use the unit circle or the sine curve, I'm looking for this position here or this position. So the sine negative 1 is 270. Now this one, we just talked about it. If you do second sine a half, you get the reference angle 30 degrees. Since this is positive, I'm looking at quadrants 1 and 2. So I'm going to drop it off of each of those. Well, 30 goes here. 30 is an answer. 30 goes here. From here to here is 150. I have 3 answers. 30, 150, and 270. Notice they all fit in my interval, so that's good. Definitely a step up, more complicated. Even more complicated. 2 sine squared plus 2 cosine theta minus 1 equals 0. Once again, now there's a clue. Nearest degree. This is telling me it's not going to be a nice number. It's going to be, I'm going to have to round. And once again, 0 to 360, you're not allowed to use 360. Now, I'm not going to factor because this is mixed. It's sine squareds and cosines. I can't do nothing about it. I can't factor something out like we've did in the past. So there is something called the trig identity, which you need to memorize. They do not give it to you as a formula. It's sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. It's called the Pythagorean trig identity. Something you need to memorize. So now, I have sine squares in here. So if I get sine squared by itself, sine squared equals 1 minus cosine squared. Wherever I see sine squared, I'm going to swap it out and put this inside. So let's go back here. 2 sine squared. But wherever I see sine squared, I'm going to put parentheses 1 minus cosine squared. Plus 2 cosine theta minus 1 equals 0. Now I'm going to distribute. Not really crazy the way this is. I'm going to move everything to the other side, or you're just going to switch all the signs. So let me combine, and then I'll show you both ways. 2 take away 1 is a positive 1. Now, I could add 2 cosine, minus 2 cosine, plus 1. or I'm just going to switch all the signs. So I get 2 cosine squared, or you can think of it as dividing by -1, whatever makes you feel better. So it's positive 2 cosine squared minus 2 cosine, instead of plus, -1. Now, I could try factoring this, except it doesn't factor. So I'm going to go to my quadratic formula. This is a pretty big problem. So now I'm going to write the formula x equals -b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm going to plug in the values 2, -2, -1. Try it out, and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so I plugged in the quadratic formula, and I get 2 plus minus rad 12 over 4. Now, we're going to split it apart. 2 plus rad 12 over 4, 2 minus rad 12 over 4. Now, the issue is, when I do this part, I just typed in the calculator, I get 1.366. And we talked about earlier that if it's over 1 or under -1, it doesn't work. So this side has no solution. Now, let's do the other one. So it would be, I'm just going to use my calculator, second enter, get back to the 2 plus rad 12. So it's a little trick to get back to your stuff that you've already done. Hit minus, enter, divide by 4. I get -0.366. So now I'm not going to use the negative. I'm just going to do second cosine. Well, actually, a lot of you guys probably would use it. I'm just going to do second cosine answer. And let's just take a look and see what happens. $111.47. Let's call it 111 degrees. Now, the negative tells me which quadrants I'm in. So negative for cosine tells me I'm in these quadrants. 111 is this angle. Okay, that's 111. All right, now I need to find the reference angle. So I'm going to do 180 minus 111. That tells me the reference angle is 69. Well, put that over here also. So reference angle 69. So now you're going to find all the way from here to here. So it's 180 plus 69. I get 249. So this problem has two answers, 111 and 249. So that's it. Hopefully this helped. This was Trig Equations Part 2. If you need other videos, hit up the website, videomathlessons.com. Have a nice night. Thanks. Bye.